So our news here in Korea may be different than what you're getting in the USA, and I want to show you guys what's going on. It says Lee set for summit talks with China's Xi. So basically, Korea's President Lee is in China. I think it's like for 4 days. He's there quite a long time, and they're going to work on building all sorts of business partnerships and relationships with each other as effectively, right, this is a big trading partner. Now, this is also happening. Trump also recently came to Korea, and they're doing the same thing, building trade and relationships and partnerships. Korea said, okay, we'll give you a crown and a necklace. Trump said, great, and also give me hamburgers, which Korea also did. And then now this is actually really interesting. Probably not in your news in the USA, but it was in our news here because it did happen. Trump presents final golden key to President Lee Jae-myung. And basically, this is like, Trump's Rose. It's all a TV show. But there's a golden key. That's what we got from USA these days. Key to the White House, it says. And it's funny, they've been posting pictures of it. President Lee's got the key, smiling there, sitting in the office. And this is the actual posting, and let me read it. From President Lee to Trump. POTUS, could this perhaps be the key to the White House? I'm curious if I may use this key to let myself in if you happen to be away from your desk the next time I visit. Laughy face. So it's kind of a funny answer because, as you know, Trump is often in Florida, not in the office. So is he making fun of Trump here? Who knows? But we do have the key. I look forward to an even stronger ROK-US alliance unlocked by this golden key, which embodies a mutual will to connect. Thank you, as always, for your constant friendship and deep trust. So ROK is Republic of Korea, if you don't know. But basically, there are troops here in Korea, and there's been talk that the U.S. may leave. That's a possibility. This was literally in our headlines again. I know there's a lot of news in USA, so this probably is not the biggest news, but it is news over here. U.S. Army squadron in Korea deactivated last month amid concerns about potential troop cut. They haven't said officially if they're, leaving or not, or cutting troops. It's been on the table. People are like kind of no comment or deny said things, but literally this is our news. So that's why we're talking about it. Is it happening or not? My feeling on this stuff is the U.S. is stretched way too thin. You can see that we're involved in Venezuela. We're involved in Nigeria. We're talking about attacking Iran and all kinds of stuff. So I wouldn't be shocked if we start shifting forces around and maybe perhaps pulling troops from Korea. So this has been in our news. Regarding the key thing, I guess not many people have gotten these keys. I'll just tell you who. It says the golden key designed directly by President Trump. So I guess he made this thing, engraved with the president's seal and the phrase, quote, key to the White House. That's written on the key. So I'll show you again. It says key to the White House, got the president's seal on there. Who's gotten this thing? Netanyahu's gotten it in Israel. Former Japanese Prime Minister Taro also has gotten one. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has gotten one, and then for whatever reason, soccer player Cristiano Ronaldo received a key. So I don't know if that's something to be proud of that you're part of that list, but Korea got one also. So there's that. This is also in our news. I just want to give you guys a different perspective. Korea urges easing of regional tensions in Venezuela crisis. And so effectively for countries like Korea, France, Germany, wherever, like countries that aren't China and that countries that aren't USA, you're like, okay, how can I trade with both China and USA and not piss anyone off? Like, you want to keep and stay open for business. I think that's a reasonable, thing for any country that would want to do. And then when you go and meet with China, they're like, okay, you have to make public statements and you have to align with all of our interests, be it Taiwan or your relationship with USA. You meet with USA, they say, okay, you have to meet and be aligned with all of our interests, be it Venezuela, Iran, whatever, right? And so as Korea, they actually try to stay neutral as much as they can. It's a tough business though, guys, and I'm just telling you a different perspective on this. And so this has been our whole news here, what's going on with Trump and Venezuela. When you talk about China then, and I'll just read some descriptions of it, you can hear it. It says, it comes as South Korea seeks to stably manage its relations with China, a key partner in trade, tourism, and peace efforts of the Korean Peninsula. So you have all these interests in place, because the question would be, for say, from Korea's point of view, if we want to, ease tensions with North Korea, can we get China to do it? Can we get USA to do it, right? Can we get both to do it? It's not crazy stuff. And essentially, you need partners for any of these kind of things. You can't do it alone, because then North Korea's like, hey, can I get backing from, from you, right? Be it either China or what's the relationship with USA. So It is not just a two-party thing in any of this stuff. It becomes, right, who's friends with who kind of things. During the meeting, Lee is expected to ask for China's support in improving strained ties to Pyongyang, so that's North Korea, and making progress in a denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Now, this is also a thorny issue because the USA recently said, hey, Korea, you can have nuclear subs and you can start building your nuclear program, these kind of things. So, right, this is all, and then China's not going to be thrilled about that, right? So then there's more, right? And then you have the business stuff. And just so I'm going through it with you. Ahead of the summit, Lee is scheduled to attend a Korea-China Economic Forum in Beijing to discuss expanding cooperation. And these are the areas: artificial intelligence, green energy, supply chains, and tourism, among areas. Many of the big Korean companies are coming because China is a major place to trade with, right? You guys know there's a huge market over there. So you got Samsung, chairman's going there, the SK Group chairman, which is a massive company here in Korea, and then you got LG Group chairman. And it's hard to explain how the companies in Korea are all conglomerates or chaebol. The best way to describe it would be like if you combine, say, if Apple was also Google and also Ford, just for example, and also, you know, your apartment building. The joke that we make here in Korea is like, say, just for example, something like Samsung is you can be born in a Samsung hospital, live in a Samsung, you know, house or apartment, have Samsung refrigerators and TVs, go to a Samsung school, go to a Samsung university, work at Samsung, go to a Samsung hospital when you get sick, eat at a Samsung restaurant, and then, you know, die in a Samsung funeral home when you die. You get my point. Is a lot of these companies are massive companies, and it's very different than what you may see elsewhere. But USA is kind of going in that direction, the same way as going in the direction of China. And it is something that's very interesting also that other countries actually come to Korea to study the development. And you can study development different ways. When I lived because I lived in Japan also, but when I lived in China, some countries would go to China to study Chinese way. Basically, how can I have a capitalism and authoritarianism at the same time? Whereas if you don't necessarily want to go that route, you're more interested in Korea because people see the flourishing of Korean companies, also with culture and tourism, these kind of things. And there's different models that you can have. I'll just say this, guys. I live here I live here. I see this stuff every day, and it's hard to explain how just things get better here in Korea on a daily basis. I know it feels like in USA it's either stagnant or worse, but there are other ways of doing things out there. And I try my best to show it to you guys. We have a vlog channel. I talk about this stuff on the channel, but it's hard if you don't see it every day. But I can just say that things do improve and develop. And it can be like that in USA. Again, it used to be like that in some parts of USA, where just, you know, for example, knowledge base improves, health, you know, of the nation improves, technology improves, like multiple things improve. The way we interact with each other improve. And, you know, even though things are going backwards now, say in USA, it is still better than it was before. I'm not saying that it's great right now, but at least, you know, in some situations, and talking about relationships between people, you know, these days, just for example, we can have a couple different types of people kiss on screen, and people don't freak out. If you know anything about U.S. history, they had like a freak out of, you know, Captain Kirk was going to kiss Uhura. That was like a really big deal back then, but now it's not such a big deal. I'm just giving one example. There's lots of things you can talk about, but I'm just saying that that's a situation of progress, and we're still a long ways to go in USA. I personally would like to see a lot more women in leadership roles, because I think women can do just fine, just like men, right? Or women can be disasters, just the same way Trump can be a disaster, whatever. But I'm just saying it. I don't want to make it sound like I preference one or the other. I just want to give everyone an equal shot, which I think is a fair thing to say. So there's multiple things to talk about here. Korea is not perfect, but I do see things progress every day in multiple areas. There's lots of different areas you can talk about. But yes, we have real companies. Samsung's making a, you know, bucket loads of money, I guess. And then essentially then, you know, can Lee make big deals in China? And you get different articles on this, right? Reduce risks, not breakthroughs, main aim of Lee's trip to China. I will say this, though. Check out this video. I just made it a couple months ago. It's about future cities in Korea. And basically it's an expo showing all the green technology and things that they want to do. And not just want to do, they're doing it. It's hard to explain. Like our sidewalks are really clean. The way that they install new lights all the time to make sure that pedestrians are safe from cars, stuff like that. Just like little things like that. And it's just like every day. Or, you know, equipment for people to exercise, how we design our parks so you can walk to them easily from your living spaces. And like the way you design your cities and your living areas is more functional for a healthy society. Oftentimes the way things are designed in USA is to keep people separated and divided, and some places will have better infrastructure than others. Simple example, and this would be an example of racism in USA, institutional racism. And when you bring this up, some people get upset, but let's tell you the truth. If you design a bus system or a transit system that makes it difficult for one area to get to another area, you're like physically dividing people, right? And then you create situations where like someone's like, hey, I got to get to work and I have to walk across, a dangerous street or something like that. There's history of that stuff in USA, and it gets complicated. But I just want to say, like, there are other ways to design cities that can be more foster more growth and development in a nation. And you see it here in Korea, and it's great to see, to be perfectly frank. There's something that's also really interesting, and it gets sensitive topics. That's why I'm reading through this stuff. It says sensitive issues are also like to be raised, including China's construction of steel structures in the overlapping sea zone in the Yellow Sea, right? Which Seoul claims is potentially laying the groundwork for territorial claims. So there could be territorial disputes with China and Korea. It happens. I mean, China is expanding. It's something that they're doing. They're getting more presence. They're building more of a navy, which is, again, projecting power. Will they try to take Taiwan? Certainly a possibility of that, as they're getting way more aggressive with that. And I always wonder if there's, backroom deals. Like, China is going to go for Taiwan. Trump wants to go for Venezuela, and then Russia wants to go for Ukraine, because, you never know how Trump's saying behind these closed doors. And then each country that's going to want to get the other countries are like, okay, you have to be on board with me for that. So then this is just part of our news. With tensions high over Taiwan following China's large-scale military drills near the island, Lee is expected to face pressure to clarify Seoul's position over the issue, which Beijing considers a core national interest, right? So they're going to want you to go on TV and say, hey, you have to say one China and we can take Taiwan. I don't know what they're going to do, but that's the next 4 days that they're going to talk about that. And then you have, local Korean interests. So this is being our example of, say, relationship with USA. Jeju farmers protest tariff-free U.S. mandarins, coupon sale of imported fruits, right? So what are we doing with that? It relates to trade because, for example, we have goods that we want to sell around the world, and are we importing too much stuff? Can we, sell stuff to other countries without any restrictions? We were just in Jeju. They have a ton of mandarins over there. They have so many mandarins, like oftentimes you get them for free. Or you go to these mandarin farms, which we went to. It was actually pretty cool to go to a mandarin farm. I don't work for Jeju or anything like that. That's what you do when you get there. You go there and you have mandarins, and it's really a blast. And frankly, it's really therapeutic. We made a video about it, but it's just your point of view on everything changes when you travel and actually go and meet people. The same way that sometimes if you live in a big city in USA and you've never been, say, to the middle of the country where the farmers are, if you go to actually talk to them, you're like, hey, they're American just like me. We can get along. And, you wish them well like anyone else. And sometimes we get too divided and stuff like that on these things. And also then, people start fighting over, who's more important in America, farmers versus big city people. And I wish we could figure out a system to where we're all equally under benefit for everyone. So that's my point of view on this stuff. You can see my video on Jeju. It's a whole other life over here in Korea. Jeju is an island. It's like the Hawaii of Korea. And there's another example of like how you can develop a healthy society is giving subsidies and such to create a place to where people can go. For us to fly to Jeju, it's like $100. It's really not that very much money at all. And you can stay there very, very cheaply for like $50 a night. So it's just not very much. And I talked about it in my video. And when you see like how nice it is, you're like, dang, why don't we have that opportunity? But this is how you invest in your people, and you keep it safe, and you make things smooth, and then you encourage tourism to bring more money in from other countries, and we welcome people from other countries, because like literally every time I see tourists, which we've been seeing a massive increase of tourists here, not just tourists, foreign students, foreign business people, all kinds of people. We have foreign workers as well. I've seen it tick up quite a lot, and every time I see these things, it's like it's great for the economy. And for anyone out there who's like, oh, I hate tourists, I hate money, it's like, all right, good luck with that. It's a whole other world here. And then this is also just a reality in here in Korea. You got to worry about North Korea. They're firing missiles all the time and doing whatever they're doing. Do we worry about it on a daily basis? Not really. But is it a danger? Sure, absolutely, right? But it is what it is, and that's why then you try to get USA and China to be like, hey, can you like tell North Korea to cut it out? Or Korea's point of view is like, hey, can we build up our own military so USA can leave? That is one of the discussions, and some of the U.S. interests want to keep military here to then put a hedge on China, and it gets really complicated with these kind of things. So for people, sometimes they write these weird crap in the comments, and I can tell you've never been to Korea. It's obvious to tell when people say that. And other people write nice things in the comments because they're like, yo, I lived in Korea, I served in Korea, these kind of things. And anyone who's ever been here, you'll see it for yourself that the country is developing, it continues to develop and push forward. And it's very hard to explain how I see improvements on a daily basis to our lives. You see it in transportation, you see it in the hospitals, you see it everywhere. You see it. It's amazing. Is it the best? No. We have population problems just like anyone else in a developed country, to where people have less kids. It's expensive to live here. It's expensive to take care of your kids, etc. When you become more educated, you realize you don't need to have a bunch of kids. It's just how it works that way. And women also want to have jobs and education, which I think is fantastic. Whereas in say USA, you have the MAGA people, they tell you women should just have babies and stay home, right? It's a different point of view. So you have just a different society. It gets really complicated talking about the population stuff. I'll just say Korea is not alone. To when you come develop, you have less kids. This is our headlines. Also, we're talking about advanced AI, robotics, and stuff like that going to CES. So Korean companies are going to want to get on that, of course, to show all your new products. Lee sees vast potential for Korea-China cooperation in emerging industries. This actually becomes a real problem for Korea here. Is Korea too dependent on China building all the stuff? Because it's not just Korea. USA does the same thing. You design products and you have it built in China. And so Korea's been trying to diversify their production and supply chains to other places, but in some regard, you have to still rely on China. So again, it becomes complicated things, but we still continue to develop here. And it's just like stuff like this, I think is really good. And so this is something I mentioned several times on the channel that USA needs to do, but from the Elon Musk point of view, he hates any new laws or regulations. So let me just read what it says. South Korea mandates AI-generated product labels for online content, right? New rules require labeling AI content, penalties for violations, law revision plan by March 2025. So basically, the date should be wrong. That should be 2026, or I'm not sure. Or maybe that was the plan in 25 and whatever. This is a recent headline, though, from December 10th. Point being, though, this is from January 3rd, 2026. AI-generated misleading ads proliferate, prompting government action. Point being, though, for Elon Musk, he's like, well, I make a lot of money from fake content and bots and stuff like that. And from just a consumer perspective, I think we would all benefit if there's like literally a requirement if you put out AI stuff, because you guys see on YouTube, there's like AI crap everywhere. You'll see it on TikTok and such. People will copy other people's channels. People copy my channel on TikTok. I think TikTok's like, man, I think all bets are off over there. And that's a Chinese platform. So clearly me and, lots of people don't like that. And this is sort of the world we live in. So you have to decide, should we regulate this stuff or not? And then the Elon Musk of the world will say, oh no, you just hate free speech. You just hate free speech. And it's just like, you guys are morons. We're not even talking about the same thing. So, that's why I always try to talk about just consumer perspective here and like this kind of stuff, right? So it's funny, because say in the USA, you'll know exactly what this stuff is, and you probably already kind of know that's BS basically. And so in the USA, you have this like culture of like, okay, we accept that advertising is all BS and they can just lie to you nonstop, right? That's part of like the culture, but it doesn't have to be like that way. You can make laws that say, no, you can't put out total BS. And it's everywhere, right? So this is in Korea. It says, in recent months, advertisements claiming that a product can restore hair growth within months or eradicate toenail fungus simply by applying it have spread wildly online. The ministry conducted a 3-week crackdown from November 24th and identified 376 cases of false advertising. That was just like in 3 weeks. And then they were talking like last year, there was like 96,726 cases of false advertising in the food and drug safety. So it is everywhere. And this is something that, I think we should regulate. And I'm just bringing this stuff up because this is the stuff that, our sort of problems, or the problems of, people basically, it's been a real problem. They'll take a picture of, whatever female, it's be either young girl or older women, whatever, put it on basically, adult content kind of stuff and then sell that to people. And that's a real problem. So we have very strict laws on that stuff. That was just passed. It's different than the USA where they'll say, oh no, it's free speech to, make that kind of content using people's images without their permission. And it's just like, are you people crazy? But this is sort of why we have these conversations, and it's a whole other world. And, one thing I will say, it's very interesting. I remember growing up in USA, and then I write about this stuff in my book, and you can check it out. It's called Positive Angle. But every day in the USA, they just tell you how we're so awesome because we got the best military in the whole world, et cetera. So that's what you grew up with in the USA. And you grew up to think that, like, okay, if a country doesn't, fly bombers nonstop and bomb other countries, then they must be not so awesome. But I'll just tell you the truth, guys. Like, when I live here and I see like our worst problems are, how do we legislate AI? I'd rather have that than like, hey, why are we invading Venezuela? And it's a very different way to think about things. So, my point of view on this stuff, and I just see it daily and here in Korea where the government does invest in their own people. And sometimes people say, oh, Chris, you're so dumb. You're so dumb. As people always like to tell me that, right? And I'll tell you the truth, because you'll see it in the articles, it's been very recent. We're getting a lot more tourism and a lot more foreign workers and foreign students and a lot of immigration. It's the highest levels each year. And that's what happens when you have an economy that is attractive for people to come and learn and come and work. And I think that's totally fine. And this is something that's a change. So it's something that the USA is pushing away. And so other countries are going to get more workers, essentially. I think New Zealand is benefiting from this, and also in Australia in this region. So that's what's going on. I'd like to hear your thoughts, and I'll catch you on the next video.